Hi guys, I'm working on annual 2019 Taroscopes. They're actually lots of fun. They give you lots of insight about every single segment of your life. And it's kind of like divided by quarters. It's divided by section of your life. And it's going to be really interesting guide. It was really well received last year. So now this is your time to get them one sign for 1995 or all signs. So you can check your ascendant, you can check your moon sign, you can check your friends, somebody that you're like having an eye on for $39.95. It is a really good time to order right now because the moment when I deliver the first one, the price is going up to $29.95 and to $39.95. So yeah, I invite you to order. Like, the link is down in the description. You can see it, you can go right there, and this is like really good time to take advantage of. So for those of you who are steady subscribers, please do that. It's great for you, it's great for me to support my channel. And those of you who are here the first time, you can actually check my timelines, and you can see I released them somewhere late in July, so you can see how they look like. Okay guys, so let's start with the reading. Hi Aries, I'm actually really excited. I really want to see what this is all about. That's the word I got for you, and let's see what additional messages we get for your next 30 days. Okay, Aries. Oh my gosh, and this is your card coming through, the Rebel. So let's grab a few more before we go into the details. No, I don't want a 4, I only want a 1. General reading for Aries. And of course, you're special, you're getting 2, and you're getting Dragonfly, Emergence, and Solitude. Okay, I think I'm starting to get a whiff of what's going on. And this one already came through. Here we have Human. You're part of the human family. Share your gifts and learn from others. And let's see from this deck. Aries for the next 30 days. Release your ex. The time has come to clear your energy. It kind of like it's creating a theme, guys, whether or not you really want to admit it. Let me just try to raise this a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. A little bit of a bird eye perspective over here. So where do I start here? Well, let's start with a human, because that seems to be like really easy to go to. We see an embryo that is kind of like giving a birth over here, and it's like this flower of life if you really wish, right? So this is probably what it's talking about. This is like the 4th petal. It's representing the human realm, right? And I think this is telling me that all people currently in your life are there for a reason. And everybody we meet also has some kind of gift or some kind of like message for us. Most of us are not fine-tuned to that. So this is the period where other people can help us advance on our life journey, because they will act as mirrors for those aspects of ourselves that we need to become aware, and we need to change them, right? So as a human, you guys have a physical body, and that's body which is sort of like a shell, a vehicle for your soul. So you really need to take care of your physical self, but you're also going to be emerging on a new spiritual path. So I think you're going to be more ready for the new opportunities and for, let's call it, a greater contribution to human family. Release your ex. In addition to that, it's really telling me that you kind of like have probably lots of things on your mind. There are like issues from the past. This is not necessarily talking the very last person you dated. This is talking about somebody who left this like huge impact on you, and that impact is like so big that is actually penetrating into your relationships, right? this is really talking, hey, you really need to let go of certain things, because each new person is a completely new challenge. It is always good to have like that a line in the sand, right? This is a no-go. I'm not going to let you kind of cross this line. And but other than that, is really, really important to what she's doing. She's going to write things and burn it during the full moon ceremony. So we still have some time until then, and you can really think what you're releasing over here. This is, to me, really talking about releasing all patterns. And I really think this is like really the best to do it in solitude, because look what we see here. We see this island, which is kind of like, I guess you see this like storm looming. So what do you focus on the storm? Are you focusing on this beautiful reflection? Or are you focusing on this light? In my case, I actually realized this like beautiful purple tree over here, and it was like so astonishing. It is like the only one over there, right? So of course, like, I mean, nonetheless, there are like quite a few different feelings that we have. It is kind of like awe, and also OMG, the storm is coming, right? So I think this here, that light is emerging, is very significant for you. Maybe some of you did not see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that emerging is everywhere. Like, you have the emerging here, we have releasing here, we have emerging, and then we have emergence. It is like spectacular so far, right? So, you know, maybe you need to take some time to really kind of like quiet your mind, to kind of like go deep inside. And you know, maybe this embryonic cord is still attached to some people around you. They're still kind of like leaving their marks in your life. And I guess this is the last thing that you really, really want. It is kind of like really time to kind of like look at things differently, right? Because this is exactly telling that you need to be a little bit less structured. That's advice that you don't hear very often, right? And that you kind of like really need to be a little bit like outside of society realm, because it's all about being alert. And I really think because also your Aries, you have like the sharpness, like, I mean, given. Maybe this is giving you too much of a yin energy, so it's too masculine. It is like too much of it, where kind of like kicking back probably would be really, really beneficial. So kind of like you need to connect with who you are. And Dragonfly, I think, really kind of like seals this really off nicely, because how much do we know about Dragonfly? Dragonfly is kind of like bypassing one stage in development, right? It kind of like goes immediately from, I think, I don't think it goes through to cocoon stage. It goes from larva stage immediately to dragonfly, right? Or like, I mean, it's moving directly from egg to nymph. So that at one point, that egg to nymph climbs on a rock, right, and or leaf, and it's kind of like emerging and takes this character of a dragonfly. So it is the process of emergence, guys, into your next cycle of your life. You skipped one step because you guys are just simply impatient, and this is kind of like really something that is going to come on really rapidly. It looks like, and I love to see these lotuses. I love to see how she's like showing up. I mean, I am so picking up on your guys' energy over here. It is like you might even think that you're unprepared for dramatic changes in your life, yet you are really, really prepared. Your life is going to get very, very, very busy, right? And it is like time to go to the next level of maturity, right? This is kind of like a period of a really big consciousness, of sort of like broadened consciousness, and it's kind of like heightened perception and heightened capacities. So it's actually something that is inevitable, and it's kind of like really good to surrender. Like the birth is like not something that you can say, just like step on the brake, I'm not coming out. No such thing. Once when the tunnel goes, you're going through the birth tunnel and off you go. So something like that is really happening. You're kind of like cutting umbilical cord of some kind, and we see here also cutting cord theme here. The Rebel, the Emperor card, which is like called in the other decks, is belonging to your sign. And obviously in this particular deck, it's like really shown as like somebody so strong, right? And look at this, like he even has the emblem of some sun on his shoulder, and he's kind of like holding this torch, which is kind of like talking about his winning his truth, winning his light, winning his kind of like moving forward. It's about inner maturity. It's about, growing wings, if you can see it over here, right? So whether he or she is wealthy or poor, that's really an emperor, because he has actually broken these chains, which is basically representing society's repressive conditioning and opinions. Maybe this really means that you don't take opinions just for granted. You kind of like spend some time, think through it, and become what they call it independent thinker. You kind of like have your own thing, right? So you're going to become a leader, which you're kind of like meant to be. Your sign is supposed to kind of guide and lead. And when we regurgitate other people's opinion on what we heard on the news, we simply kind of like just sheep. We just like follow through. And instead, how about you kind of like putting like your dots together and saying something like, well, these are the reason, like kind of like come with some kind of explanation to all of it. So I really like what I hear over here, I have to admit. Zest definitely means it's going to be this eagerness. It's not going to be, even though we have a solitude card, and I think this is like simply for you to be able to have that pause, to kind of like understand when you need to stop yourself, when you need to continue to push forward, right? And I really feel this thing is really kind of like to push back the buttons. Maybe some of you have been lethargic, maybe like especially if you are in the northern hemisphere, like this crappy weather, like a transition in the winter is like, ugh, it's like uncomfortable, and you just like feel like snuggling up in some kind of like warm thing. But you know what, again, you need to take care of your physically and spiritually, and you're going to start emerging. This is going to be such an important month, so this is going to be really interesting. So okay, so let's right now shuffle the cards and see what else we can see going through this process. Deck is Nine of Sky and Three of Sky. So no wonder that you have been going through a period which could have been tense. It could feel like a rejection. It could feel you do not belong, right? Maybe scared and running for so long that you have forgotten how to be still. I have a feeling that some of you are having issues with sleeping. Either you're insomniacs, or you might have nightmares, or you just like simply do not feel that you're rested enough, right? I have this, like, I'm a fitness watch that is kind of like tracking my sleep, and it's kind of like really interesting how many times we really wake up at night, and just because we slept 7 hours or 8 hours, it doesn't mean we really did get that much sleep. And this is kind of like usually when like we are like pushed on the edge. So again, this is telling me reduce caffeine. Like, I mean, you're dealing maybe with things that are pushing you in a direction maybe where you shouldn't be. And it is exhaustion. It is like something that it feels like everything feels like a battle. Everything feels like, oh my God, like when is like that soft place to fall, right? So clearly it's been a tough time for some of you. You have faced some challenges and you have made some difficult decisions. So the good news is that this Nine of Swords indicates that this phase is at end, or very nearly so. Your current task is to wrap things up, right? Cut the cord. You need to cut the cord. Some people make the mistake of reliving such times over and over. That's why I call this like a wash machine brain, kind of like watching the tapes with regret, bitterness, or anger, right? It's just like emotion. Those buttons, those triggers are pushed inside of us. So in order to move forward, you need to maybe relive the situation one last time, but with a twist. This time, put an eye of compassion. Initially for yourself, but then for everyone involved. Because, as I said, every person here is like a mirror. They are reflecting us. They're reflecting our experiences. So you need to recognize the wisdom gained. And then you can truly move forward. So, we have Four of Fire. This is a lovely thing. Again, we see the emergence. Like you have this theme everywhere, almost like it's a rebirth. It's just like something really amazing. Four of Fire to me is always talking about going to the next stage of something, which kind of like does make sense. You're not feeling heavy weight anymore. You know what they say, like it's a straw that broke the camel's back? Meaning just a little thing is sometimes needed and then whole thing collapses. That's just because you've been carrying that weight and weight and weight, and you thought, oh, that's okay, I can just do more and I can jump higher and I can do this better. But it is a time to leave that weight behind. You have to see if it actually served you at all. So what it didn't serve you, kind of like say your thanks. Because even if it was unpleasant situation, an unpleasant person, or unpleasant event, it was there to teach you something. You need to figure it out, and that's how you get into the compassion stage. What did it teach me? And you have the Star here reversed. One of my favorite cards, if not the favorite. And look at here, the kitty is dreaming, and oh my gosh, I'm seeing the lion in the stars, right? So it's a bigger version of myself. And this is the place where we need to go deep and find hope. It is like all starting with like lighting a match in a completely dark room, and the light starts to show. The stars are always something magical. When this card reverses, it is kind of like talking about giving up on something and feeling hopeless. And generally, hopeless is not a word that is going to excite you. But are you really possibly this time around giving up on something that couldn't have worked? So you have Earth Queen here reversed. I don't know if you had somebody in your life. That can be somebody manipulative. That can be somebody who is like money driven. That can be somebody who is using you as a resource but is like nowhere close when you need something. That could be he or that could be she. It could be a guy who keeps looking or presenting himself as if no, I'm not meant to do that. For example, if you ask, a friend, can you just help me put the painting on the wall? Oh, I'm so bad with hammers. I'm so bad with tools, right? It's ridiculous, right? You see, the example I'm giving is the example that is of someone who purposely doesn't want to do that, right? And they're going to find up an excuse that you're going to feel it in your gut. And this is the sign. Okay, fine. Where do I put this person? How do I categorize this person? Is this person going in a bucket which are friends? Or is this person going in a bucket acquaintances? Or once in a while get together? You need to kind of like really position it in your head. be careful, because this person is doing lots of promises. Like they're lulling you into believing something that sounds too good to be true. I like that rebel came through it, because you really, I don't think you can go wrong this month. You're going to see through a whole bunch of things. So you have Two of Sky reversed. Two of Sky is really talking about goals, and now the kitty arrived to two posts. So which one should I choose? Look at that. Both of them are strings in the wind. Which string will I choose? Sometimes indecisiveness takes us out. The answer is like, if you're not sure, just take one and go with it. You can always go back and get a second one, right? Because analysis paralysis, right? It can kind of like be more harmful than useful, and it's kind of like important. Then we have Eight of Fire, and it is reversed. We can see the kitty, and we all, some of us that have cats, this is kind of like really how all my mats at home look like, because they get into the sudden outbursts. Like, I mean, they're like activating their lymphatic system, and they run around and they keep doing the stuff. And Sophie doesn't run around. She waits for me to get on my rebounder, and she's waiting for me to make this bouncing motion, and she's like sitting there, so she's getting exercises for free. So that's something to do, right? We can get benefit of the exercise by somebody else doing it. Kidding aside, this, we see two of them stagnating and one of them running forward, right? So I really think it's going to be a derail of some kind of communication, which very much can actually be about this Earth Queen. You also might be in a position where either you will tell it to someone, or somebody will tell you that something is not the right fit. It is kind of like contradictory, because Four of Fire is telling you about moving forward. And generally, when people hear, hey, you're moving forward, you are in your head moving forward where you want to go. No, no, no. This is telling you you're moving forward where karma wants to kind of like move you forward to. And here you have Nine of Earth reversed. Lots of reversals, guys, but I can see in your heart you're like literally jumping through the hoops. So what do we see here? We can see a super happy cat. Has everything that needs to be. There is like, I mean, soup or milk, there is like this beautiful grass, catnip, there is like this view outside, and yet it feels protected. When this is around, it sometimes worries me, because it feels that we will get intruders in our life, that we will get people who will invade our life, and we are going to let them just because we feel alone, or that the wrong choice is being made because, right, you just don't want to be alone. Because like now this is the second 9 that I have. Look at this, I have 8 9s, like, I mean, 2 8s and 2 9s. So some kind of like process is nearing the end. So some conclusion will be reached very, very soon, and most likely looks like it is about somebody. This somebody could be also somebody from work, where, you know, maybe somebody likes to work with you all the time, but they're like really, really quick to grab the accolades, and maybe you are just like one of those people who just like likes work for what it is and didn't look at it. But like, I mean, you're going to start like really paying more attention. Again, solitude, this gorgeous tree did manage to win against all these elements, right, and against loneliness. So actually, it's funny, I just like noticed this now, and I seen it for a second and I don't see it anymore, but this kind of like simply spoke to me. You see this kind of like spot over here. For some reason I looked at it and it looked like a heart. It isn't a heart, if you can see it here, but it really did. And I really go with what I feel, and I really think this is kind of like a reflection. The purple is always that spiritual kind of quality, and it's purple heart. And I really think that should be the title of your video, because the purple heart to me means really uplifted, like this kind of like thinking where you go above yourself, where you go above what is like your immediate need, right? That's the highest chakra. It's like the openness. It's opening that spiritual component. So let's see your feelings. 5 of Earth reversed. Well, this is really not bad, because look at here, looking at the kitties inside that they're like sitting with lots of food and the warmth. And it is really, when you feel in this situation, is like the sudden sadness. It's kind of like on so many levels. Feeling isolated, feeling, like, cut off from good things in life, which kind of like are not even good, they're just like necessary, and yet kind of like not knowing what to do. When this card reverses, maybe some of you felt that way and felt blocked off, felt maybe rejected, felt you're not a part of the crowd, or you're always isolated, or you're not invited. It was a tint of that, and it could be that somebody, and this could be also your boss, that had something to do with that, and it was not making you, well, happy, to say the least. This period is stopping. You're kind of turning things around. And the whole idea here is like, interestingly enough, when people are lonely, when people are sad, and this is really good thing about our humans, and I really think in 21st century we are losing ability to connect on that level. But back then you would always turn to your family when you are grieving over something, to your friends, to the church, right? Well, now we have less and less of that. We just less and less go to church, we less and less have these communities, and we have more and more television trying to kind of like put us against each other. So this is kind of like, again, you pulling your own strength, you're pulling your own wisdom, you kind of like really releasing certain things over here. This could be something that is like shifting to a completely new environment for you, where you're going to be strong and powerful yet again. This is also environment. You have 3 of C. So this is a lovely card. That's just like what I said. It's a company of people who are there for you. Maybe people who are very different, and maybe on many levels they think very much unlike you, and maybe they almost like belong to a different element, meaning, well, you swear by waking up in the morning and starting the day really, really quickly, and you love to have a clean house. But your friend is messy and cannot crawl out of bed until noon, etc. And even though you might be kind of like critical of something like that, they still are there for you, and time after time they did come through. So this is like really talking about different people having different attitudes, and friendship is all about that, accepting people for who they are, even though you really don't necessarily belong, and you don't necessarily agree. But what is really important over here is respect, and that is like something that is really, really coming through, because you had another 3, not so happy 3 over here, and this is kind of like as bad as it can get, like these 2 cards that you had on the bottom. So this is really clear to me that you've been going through storm. You felt bitten, you felt almost like sheltered, but not bad sheltered, like in a dark place where you didn't know what's going to happen. But everything was there for a reason. You have been in a protective box, which was really needed for you, and that's why you were not getting messages. That's why it was really hard for you to decide. Almost like looks to me that you have been waiting for somebody else to make a decision, and you were depending on his or her decision or their decision. And that maybe here represents that waiting. Are you coming? Are you here? Are you? Is somebody calling? Remember, like, sitting by the phone and waiting for somebody to call. It's the worst feeling in the world, right? This is saying, go out with your friends. You need to find a way of having fun. Not to run home where you left the phone, not to look every 5 seconds, because that's exactly what is the nightmarish situation over here it is being described. So hopes and fears another 8, 8 of Earth. So now we have like 8, 8, and 8. And this is a really lovely card. It's again positioning. You're saying to yourself, you know what? I was happy before. I really want to move forward. Friends are important to me. So are my colleagues from work. And, you know, and this is kind of like one of the good things to kind of like jump back on your feet. And I really kind of like see that in your card, Rebel, over here, where there's like this essence of I really belong and growing wings. So here is like a mommy cat kind of like training, taking everybody else, taking family into kind of like, let's learn new skills. So maybe you are all into self-improvement, which I do see this like huge spiritual component. You're really on a go. You are really feeling strength in kind of like what's going on. This is really opening you up to a completely new dimension, something actually much gentler that you have experienced for a while, because like some of you got stuck in your head for really too long, and now this fire is coming through. You kind of like want to move forward, but you know, like, I mean, when you're holding the tail of the little mousey and he's like trying to spin and not going anywhere, like it's going to be like you feel stuck and then all of a sudden you will go, and it's going to be just like with such joy, with understanding that you are appreciated and cherished and loved. You have been maybe searching for love in the wrong places. Maybe it was the right place. Did it ever occur to you that it was maybe meant to be, that you were supposed to kind of like go in that direction because you needed to learn that lesson, and now it looks like you are just putting the bow on this gift and you're done. And you have the Priestess, and this is again talking about really needing to go in. I'm telling you that some of you are not going to listen to me at all. It's going to be because she can be reversed. This is absolutely lovely card. She's the one who is watching what people do, right? She's the one who appreciates experiences in life, and it's guardian of the secrets. That's a very secretive card, and you still feel maybe a burn of somebody who done you wrong, and you kind of like really want to kind of like go through that exercise. The truth is, it really doesn't matter. Like, you do not need to do it on the outside, because this is telling you need to do it inside. You already know the answer. The answer was the lesson you need to learn, not he or she did that to me and how could that, and I was like so great. Well, you know, this was the lesson, and you can turn this around, right? Because this is already telling me this is like in the beginning stages of just releasing that, right? So most people get stuck in that why question. You can be stuck there decades. It doesn't have amount of time that you can kind of assign to it. It goes on and on and on. There is like one person who can stop it. You can say, you know what, it is what happened. This is what happened. And it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm never going to get those answers, because I can see this. You were trying to look from all the sides and try to find those logical answers. But the answers are really clear. The answers are that maybe you neglected your friends. Maybe you neglected your family, your work, because some person was really important. And you guys tend to be that way. You're like one woman, one man person, right? And this is kind of like really huge. Not everybody can take that. Not everybody can absorb that level of energy, and sometimes people run away. But that just like means it was a wrong person. You can't really change people. You can maybe help them understand, but if they don't want to, what can you do, right? Okay, Aries, let me grab one more card so we can seal this reading. Would love to hear your comments. Oops. Would love to know what's going on in this, because that's going to be a major change that everybody can benefit out of it. So you got the Golden Palace reversed. So let me read that for you. Let go of your tight hold on what you believe. security should look like. Now it is the time to conserve your energy and count your blessings. Resist the pull to become miserly. There will be enough money, love, youth, food, and shelter to go around. A mindset of fear and lack will shut off the flow of true abundance. Trust in the tides, because the flow always returns from the ebb. Chop wood, carry water, as the Chinese proverb says. Practice faith, and the treasure will be revealed. In fact, you'll find it in plain sight. You know, this is kind of like really amazing. You know, sometimes you try all venues. Sometimes you try to go through the wall, and you hit your head hard and you get injured, and then you try again and the same thing happens. Like, I mean, hundreds of more, tries, and you just like decide, no, that's not doable. I'm not doing that. And funny, once when you decide like that this is not the way to go, the other venues appear as opportunities. And I really think something like this is going to happen here. You're like so striving to go in one direction, and that one direction was really a spiral down for you, and really robbed you from that critical thing of that zest, of that kind of like essence, that fire that is like really, really burning in you. And guess what? Maybe you have been in the dark, but that fire is going to burn bright again. So, my dear Aries, you're going to have a phenomenal month. Phenomenal. You just like need to get rid of garbage and enjoy who you are and who you are becoming. So until the next time, you know that I love you. All the best, and hopefully I'll see you back soon.